So in yesterday's videos, I brought up something called Event 201, which was a World Economic Forum's simulation of a global pandemic uh, before the pandemic actually started. So these unelected bureaucrats at the World Economic Forum were running simulations, they say, to prepare for a coming global pandemic. And this was the SBS reporting on the 1st of February 2020. So 3 months, we're reading, 3 months before the coronavirus outbreak, researchers simulated a global pandemic. So we go on here. It began in healthy looking pigs, a new coronavirus spreading insidiously within herds. Farmers were the first to fall victims, succumbing to respiratory illnesses ranging from mild flu-like symptoms to severe pneumonia. Flights were cancelled as the world's sharpest minds searched in vain for a vaccine. But it was too late. Within 6 months, the virus had spread around the globe. A year later, 65 million people were dead. Unlike the most recent coronavirus outbreak, you got to remember that this is in 1st of February 2020, so the pandemic has just started around the world. Unlike the most recent coronavirus outbreak, however, you probably haven't heard of this. That's because it was all a simulation, developed some 3 months before Wuhan, China became the epicenter of a global crisis. You make up your mind as to what actually happened. We're 2 years on, going on to 3, and looking back in hindsight, with all the information you have now, things start to add up. They were running a simulation. This was the same thing during September 11. They were running war games where they were practicing 2 planes hitting the Twin Towers. This was a war game on the day, and then it happened on the day. So it's a coincidence, I'm sure. I'm sure it was just pure coincidence. Nothing was planned, nothing. That's not what I'm saying. But it's weird, isn't it? It's just weird. Such a weird coincidence. This is such a weird coincidence too, I think. So 3 months before the pandemic breaks out around the globe, they were running a simulation, a war game, if you will. And there's many of these that have happened, like even some recent, I won't even say them because I can't remember exactly which ones they were, but there have been terrorist attacks where they were running, like the previous day, they had been running a scenario about a terrorist attack in that area, and then the next day there's a terrorist attack. It's just odd coincidence. So this is, so I brought up Event 201, and yesterday I thought it was about a cybersecurity threat. Event 201 was actually the pandemic response simulation 3 months before it actually broke out. And so here I wanted to show you the World Economic Forum's cyber attack with COVID-like characteristics. This was in 18th of January 2021, so a year on from the pandemic, and they were already predicting a cyber attack with COVID-like characteristics. So we'll take a look at this video, and then you tell me if anything sounds odd in this video. We'll watch it and then...
The COVID-19 pandemic has shaken our economies and societies to the core and shown us how vulnerable we are to biological threats. In the digital world, similar risks are being overlooked right now. A cyber attack with COVID-like characteristics would spread faster and further than any biological virus. Its reproductive rate would be around 10 times greater than what we've experienced with the coronavirus. To give you an idea, one of the fastest worms in history, the 2003 Slammer sapphire worm, doubled in size approximately every 8.5 seconds, infecting over 75,000 devices in 10 minutes and almost 11 million devices in 24 hours. Fortunately, at least until now, cyber attacks have not impacted our health the way pandemics have, but the economic damages, and therefore the impact they have had on our daily lives, have been equal and sometimes even greater. You see, the only way to stop the exponential propagation of a...
This next bit of information was what I was referring to. Should a nuclear bomb go off anywhere in the world, whether it's in Russia, in Ukraine, or in the US, if the US decides to attack, if NATO decides to attack Russia preemptively with nuclear weapons, I believe, or both, if one sends nuclear weapons, the other one is going to be launching nuclear weapons at the same time. And what I believe, what is a potential scenario, just like they run scenarios, I'm going to run a scenario. So my scenario is this. They've been planning for a cyber attack with COVID-like characteristics. And I want you to listen to the next bit of information, because I believe this is what could happen if there is nuclear attacks on their way, whether to your city or on the way to Russia. Either way, I believe they will shut down the internet, and they will report in local news that everything is fine. It's just that there has been a cyber attack and they must shut off. You won't see it, but I believe radios will still keep their communications open to keep the people calm. The radios will not go off the airwaves, but even their information will be cut off from the rest of the world. So if you're in the US, you will be restricted to US only radio stations. You will not have access to global radio stations for them to say what's happening on their side of the world. And there won't be any means, no internet for you to turn to and find out what is happening on the other side of the world. So they will shut down the internet. It's just a scenario that I believe is possible. Should an Armageddon, World War III nuclear weapons are used. So listen to the next section. I'll reverse it a bit and rewind it. And then you can hear to what the only way to stop a cyber attack. This is the only way to stop a cyber attack.
The only way to stop the exponential propagation of a COVID-like cyber threat is to fully disconnect the millions of vulnerable devices from one another and from the internet. All of this in a matter of days. A single day without the internet would cost our economies more than $50 billion, and that's before considering the economic and societal damages should these devices be linked to essential services such as transport or healthcare. As the digital realm increasingly merges with our physical world, the ripple effects of cyber attacks on our safety just keep on expanding at a faster pace than what we're preparing for. COVID-19 was known as an anticipated risk. So is the digital equivalent. Let's be better prepared for that one. The time is now.
You got to remember that everything runs off the internet. Everything is connected digitally. Everything, infrastructure, water, electricity, gas, petrol, even payments. You will not be able to take money out of your bank accounts, so keep cash. You will not be able to pay wave, pay pass, use your phone to make any payments. So purchasing food, paying bills, at that point in time, you're not worried about paying bills, but I'm mentioning what will be impossible without the internet. Should a nuclear war break out and the destruction or potential destruction of each warring nation is about to happen, in order to keep the people from freaking out. So you can imagine if Russia launches a nuclear strike on the US, say New York, they will shut off the US will be launching nukes on the way to Russia. But in the meantime, the internet will be shut off because they don't want you to know that what's incoming. Because if you know what's incoming, you will freak out. Everyone will freak out. It'll be mayhem. Everyone will be trying to get out at the same time. It'll be gridlock. It'll be a disaster. The elites do not want to be held up with you freaking out. So what they will do is say, we've had a cyber attack. We need to shut off the internet for a couple of days whilst they make their escape to their bunkers, and you just go, oh, it's just a cyber attack. I'm going to continue working. I'm going to continue just living my life. Yeah, you're going to freak out because you can't TikTok dance these nurses. You can't TikTok dance. The drag queens won't be able to post all their fancy shit on TikTok. All the freaks will be pulling their hair out because they can't let everyone know what they're doing and what they're eating in that very second. But whilst you guys are living your lives nonchalant, just going about your business, and the internet is down, these assholes who started World War III will be making their great escape. They will leave us all just to burn. That's their plan. They will shut down if there is a nuke headed to your city, to your country. It's not about your city. They will shut down if something is on the way to New York, or Washington or California, wherever the nuke is inbound. They're not going to just block off the access to their internet, because then everyone else on the other side of the country will find out what's happened, and they don't want that, because there's politicians and elites that live in those other areas that need that to make their way to their bunkers, and so they don't want mayhem across any nation. Even if Australia, say, isn't being attacked, I believe, or not imminently, the access to our internet will be shut just to keep people calm, so they don't find out that Russia has been obliterated from the planet, or that a US city has been leveled with hundreds of thousands of people dying, because that would be very traumatic. It was horrific. I remember waking up and seeing those towers fall on live on TV, and I was traumatized for the rest of the day. I remember going to work, and I was horrified and I couldn't process. It felt like I was in a movie. I couldn't believe it, and I was confused. If you lived through that, you can remember what it was like to watch them towers fall. It was very horrific. It was something I will never forget. It's still, I remember how awful it was, and so to hear and that was, we didn't know the numbers back then. I didn't know 3,000 people had died. I thought 1,000 people had died, and I was traumatized. Now imagine hearing that a city of the US has been obliterated and 500,000 people are dead. That's the reality. It's horrific. It's unimaginable, but imaginable because of the times we're living in. So I'm hoping that the main takeaway is that stay out of the cities, stay out of big crowded cities. And if you are in a crowded city and your internet fails and you have no way of communicating with your loved ones, make your way home, away from the city. If you live in a city, get your family out of it. When you find out, when you hear, when you even get that feeling that the internet has gone down, just know that something grave is on its way. It doesn't matter, it might not be in your city, but the mayhem that it'll cause once people find out, you it's best that you are already prepared for what is coming, potentially, or that when you see this happen, when the internet goes down, they shut it down completely, globally, that you know that something serious has happened. It isn't a war game. It isn't a simulated cyber attack. It is something horrible has happened, and they don't want you to know the information. They are trying to escape at that moment, all the global elites that got us into this fucking hellhole. And they don't want you rushing out and getting into your cars and everyone blocking the highways at the same time. What they want is for you to continue working and going, oh, my internet is down. Is your one working, John? No. Is your one working, Sam? No. Fuck. So what's wrong? Like, and everyone's going to be trying to get a hold of their service provider. They're not going to be answering anyone's calls. So if your internet goes down in 2022 at any point, know that something horrible is incoming in your area, in your country, not necessarily your area, because I don't believe they will attack a place like Texas. They won't attack a place like Oklahoma. They would attack Russia if Russia wanted to make an impact into this global war against NATO, against the US. Washington DC, New York, San Francisco, Silicon Valley, California, Hollywood. If I was Putin, it'd be the first place I knew. It'd be like that big Hollywood sign. That's iconic, and it would definitely cause a lot of damage, morale damage, even if it doesn't kill as many people as it intended. So that was what I was referring to yesterday in yesterday's video. It was a WEF simulation from 18th of January 2001, and that was the video. What else do we have here? So this was from 9 months ago. WEF Global Risks Report warns of cyber pandemic, erosion of public trust and social cohesion. Although they are worried about erosion of public trust, they brought it on themselves. Like, nobody trusts the elites. They even discussed the people don't trust the elites anymore. I'll find you that video for a future video. But their plan, because of a cyber pandemic, their plan is to shut the internet. They've already run the simulation, just like they ran a simulation for the coronavirus pandemic. They've already run through the cyber attack pandemic, and soon they will shut off the internet. But I believe they will save this shutting off of the internet for something as drastic as a warhead heading your way or close to you. So anyway, I'll catch you on the next video. Thanks for watching. Love and blessings to you all. And as always, be a lion. Be unafraid. Speak up your mind, because if we don't speak up ourselves right now, then they will get us into a nuclear war. Thanks everyone. See you on the next one.